Welcome and blessings to Leading Change Module 1. I am Dr. Claudette Morgan Scott, and I'm looking forward to going through this particular course with you. So let's go into Module 1. Module 1 is going to look at the SWOT analysis and how the components of SWOT for our church. As we begin to look at the components of SWOT for the church, we will cover today what is a SWOT analysis, and number 2, how to conduct a SWOT analysis of your church, transformational change and transactional change, and strategic plans. All of these components are essential when we're looking at the SWOT analysis of our church. We will cover 4 objectives. The first objective will be demonstrate an understanding of the 4 components of a SWOT analysis. Objective number 2 will be apply the SWOT analysis concept to your church. Objective number 3 will be demonstrate an understanding of transformational change and transactional change. What is the difference? And then objective number 4 will be demonstrate an understanding of the importance of a strategic plan. If we are to implement change, then a strategic plan is going to be essential. So let's get into the throes of the lesson. So as we begin to look at a SWOT analysis, we first have to understand the vision and the mission of a ministry, or the vision and mission when we're looking at change. You won't know that change is necessary unless you understand what your vision is. So what is a vision? Let's look at a vision statement. Your vision is your dream. It's what your organization believes are the ideal conditions for your community. That is how things would look if the issue important to you were completely or perfectly addressed. So when I'm talking about your community, I'm talking about either your local community or your church community. So as we begin to look at a SWOT, we do a SWOT based on what is the needs of the church, where's the church going, and that may actually engage our community outside of our church. So what is a mission statement? So following a vision statement, we really need to understand what is a mission statement. The next piece, your mission statement is actually the next piece of the puzzle, and it is the ground to your vision in practical terms. So we've got to understand our mission in relation to the vision, and your mission really is the practical elements of your vision. This is where, we're developing a mission statement. The next step in the action planning process comes in. And so as we begin to look at that, we begin to understand the organization. Where is the organization going, and how is it going to get there? What do we need to put in place? So your vision statement should inspire the people around you, and your mission statement, should inspire you as a leader to go forward. So let's go to the next slide. So in summary, to understand your vision and mission, we really need to incorporate the vision, the mission, strategies, goals, and objectives. So in summary, your vision is what you want to achieve. Your mission is, a general statement of how you will achieve your vision. But then strategies come into play. Strategies are absolutely important. And strategies are a series of ways of using the mission to achieve the vision. Goals are your statements of what needs to be accomplished to achieve strategy. So you're going to set goals. It's really kind of breaking everything down. So we have specifics, and then your objectives are the specific actions and timelines for achieving your goals. So your specifics and your timelines is going to be important. It has to be measurable for you to be able to determine whether change is necessary. So we need to involve all of those components. So when we're talking about leading change and looking at change in the church environment or in kingdom, we really need to understand the concept of vision and where does that concept come from. So one of the things that I was studying was vision, and it's a first occurrence in the word, what I call first mention. What is the first mention of the word vision? Vision, when we're talking about vision in the word, it was first mentioned in Genesis chapter 15. After these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abraham in a vision, saying, "Fear not, Abraham. I am thy shield and I am thy exceeding great reward. And so the Hebrew word for vision is makachez. And so I love this. You know, whenever we're talking about vision, whenever we're talking about strategies and where the church is going, one of the things that we really understand, you know, when the Lord was really speaking to me about this subject area, that there are three things that we need to consider. And I see here that I have one, one, and two. It's actually one, two, and three, right? So fear not, you know. And so, you know, one of the things that God speaks to us is He really speaks about instilling confidence. When He spoke to Abraham, He instilled confidence because He already knew that when we, you know, when we launch out into something different, when we launch out into the concept of change, a concept of implementing vision, fear automatically comes. So that was the first instruction He gave Abraham. The second was, I am thy shield. And so when God gives you a vision, He brings protection. And so we have to understand we cannot be fearful in the process of leading change because God brings protection. And then number three, He said, I am thy exceeding great reward. When we follow the vision and the plan of God, there are benefits. There's benefits not just to us individually, but benefits to our church community and benefits to our community at large. So for me, you know, God gave me a formula. I'm a formula person. You'll find out as we go through our course that, you know, vision plus voice, the voice of God equals purpose. What we want to do, what we want to achieve is the purpose of God in everything, right? So we've got to explore the purpose of God. And so, you know, when we're talking about vision, you know, we're talking about vision in terms of one's ability to see what is not seen in the natural. We have to be able to see in the spirit what God is saying. What is God saying to us in the realm of the spirit? And, you know, how can we shift that? And so as we go back to understanding the will of God, it's essential that we open our eyes to see what God is saying in the realm of the spirit. And then what I love is as we begin to look at the SWOT analysis, we've got to understand SWOT because SWOT is actually used as a tool to determine what's going on in our environment, what's going on in the world around us. So, you know, the SWOT analysis has four components, as we mentioned earlier. It looks at the strength of an organization, the weakness of an organization, what are the threats to the organization, and what are the opportunities. And this is a business concept that we apply to kingdom principles. And so for me, when we look at SWOT, it's a really popular tool in organizations and their strategic plans and strategic actions. So the advantages of SWOT analysis is its internal scrutiny, so we can actually begin to look on the inside of our organizations, the inside of our ministries or our kingdom move to determine what changes do we need to become more effective, to become relevant, what's necessary. And so that's really important. And the other thing that we need to consider is it's a really useful tool to, for assessment and to critically assess, what is the risks that we face. One of the things that we have to be able to do as a church is to plan ahead of time. We can't just be relevant for the current time, but we have to preempt what's going on. One of the accusations that we face as a church or as a ministry is that we're so far behind or we're not relevant. And this particular program, this course, is really giving you the tools to be relevant, but also to plan ahead of time. What is going to happen in the future? What is God saying? Where is He leading us? How can we prepare for that as individuals, as leaders, as churches? And so this is a really useful tool. And so as we begin to look at the SWOT analysis and the components of the SWOT analysis, when we look at strengths, we need to look at the marketing or the techniques of the organization or the enterprise. And we need to look at what new products is out there. What other ministries is out there? What challenges are you facing in the current climate? Whether, it's something that's feeding us or something that's going to be really great for us. What tools are there? What strengths do we have? What's our uniqueness, right? What do we bring to the table? All right. And then we need to look at the weaknesses, whether it's reputation, whether it's the financial position, whether it's the way that we market or the way that we present ourselves. What are the opportunities, the new products that are out there, the new tools? We've certainly faced a lot of challenges during COVID to adapt to using social media, reaching different audiences. But then, we face some threats too in terms of getting people back into the house, back into the place of worship, and not just being online partners with us. There's all kinds of issues, and when we look at threats, this is some of the principles that they use in the secular is the alliances, price wars, etc. So we need to be cognizant of what's going on around us, what is the strengths, what will enhance that, what do we have to enhance ministry, what are the weaknesses that we face internally, what are the opportunities that will bring us to the place that God wants us to be, and then what are the threats, what will hinder us. And so as we begin to look at ministry and looking at applying a SWOT analysis to our churches, we really need to start looking at who do we serve. In the business world, they call it the customer experience. What does the saints, think of the ministry? What do they leave with when they leave in the ministry? So some of the things that, we look at is the place of, the customer jobs, the problems, the needs up front. What does the saints come to church with? What are the concerns that they have? Are those concerns being met by the ministry? And we've got to identify, what is our target market? What age group are we serving? Are we a multi-generational church, multi-generational ministry? Are we targeting 18 to 24-year-old, 44-year-olds? Or are we targeting families? Are we targeting seniors? We've really got to be in tune with our product and what we're offering. We know our ultimate goal is to preach Christ. We know that. We know our ultimate goal is to bring people to a place of salvation. But who has God called us to? Who is our nation, right? Who is our target market? All right. And so, when we look at the use of the SWOT analysis, it's imperative for the organization to be able to conduct an analysis of itself, to conduct an analysis using SWOT, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and identify the internal and the external. The analysis is in the business world, it's actually proven to be very, very successful. And I've used it many times as someone that has a small business and someone who has ran ministry for goodness, over 20 years. Amen. So it is a very, very useful tool, and I would encourage us as leaders to use this tool periodically. Don't be afraid to take an assessment of our ministry and its effectiveness. And so, as we look at leading change, and we look at the taking a SWOT analysis of our church, one of the things that the Lord spoke to me, and I think is very important, we need to look at the purpose of the ministry, the meaning and the intent behind the ministry. In the process of looking at that, we need to look at what are the problems that society is facing, the place that we've been called to, and the people that we've been called to serve. So, what are the social problems? What are the political problems? What are the economic problems? What are the cultural problems? What are we facing? What are the racial problems? And how do we address that? What has God called us to address specifically? What is our social justice issue? And then, we need to analyze, we need to design, and then we need to take action. Once we've gathered our information, what is the analysis and what is the action that we will take? So, we need to look at member segmentation. We mentioned that very briefly earlier, but we need to look at the demographics, the age, the gender, education, income, marital status, race, etc. The geographics, what the region that God has called us into, lifestyle. My goodness, that's a big issue that sometimes, we're afraid to touch, but we have to look at what has God called us to address, what is going on, in terms of the interests, activities, opinions, values, and how do we address those issues, the behavior, the observable behavior, the mission of the people that we serve, and the installed base or the ownership of the compatible or necessary ministries. And so we need to look at, what ministries is coming out of, out of our churches, what is our specialism, and what can we improve. So to do that, we really need to take a church survey. The generic introduction and purpose of the church. Do we do a church orientation when people join, a new members orientation, or not? The demographics, the experience with the problem and the missions. In terms of doing the work, challenges, obstacles, pain points. What is the mindset of the people that we serve, and what is the mindset of our leadership team? Are they part of the solution, or are they part of the problem? Are they an obstacle? Do they help to develop mindset? Is there a clear culture in our church? Is that easily identifiable? And what are we interested in learning? What are the people interested in learning? And then thank the folks for responding. Thank the saints for responding. That survey may actually start with your leadership team. That definitely don't take their participation for granted. Sometimes as leaders, we really have to affirm and let them know that we are appreciative of who they are and the work that they're doing, because often leadership is a voluntary position. It's for most churches, particularly smaller churches, it is not a paid position. So we really want to affirm our gratitude for the people that serve. And so, one of the things that I think we need to be aware of, the total available market. How many potential members are there? How large is the market? Market size and engagement that equals the market value, and then how do I find out? What are the secondary sources like censuses? What is my potential market, and how can I reach that market? So, for example, if I'm living in a region where there's 2,000 people and there's just two churches, then that makes me aware of my potential market, and it will help me to develop strategies to reach that market. And so, the share of the market, what's my share of the market? How do I find out? In terms of the share of the market, what part of of the served addressable markets are you going to engage? Who are you engaging? What does that look like? Is that going to be a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year plan? You have to develop that plan and develop the timeline for how often you're going to evaluate that plan. How many customer members is there, and how many units and dollars would that cost you? Because ministry does cost. There is a dollar amount associated to ministry for marketing, for service, and for cleaning, for engaging, for events. And so we have to be aware of budget development. We've got to be able to develop a budget. So again, determining the market size, again, there's steps that we can take to do that. And I love those steps, just brainstorming, talking to the people around you, market segmentation, and complete a customer segment analysis for each segment. So if you're going to focus on the youth, you need to do a market analysis for that group. If you're going to focus on adults, or you're going to focus on the homeless, you're going to focus on single mothers or single fathers, there are different market segmentation that we're going to have to conduct a survey for. So, we've got to take advantage of venture and complete a competitors analysis table. So, for example, in my ministry, I work very, very closely with a Hispanic pastor, and we do events together. So sometimes we'll preach in English, or sometimes we'll preach in Spanish, and then we'll interpret. And so, the secular term would be a joint venture, right? So the ministries coming together to achieve a common goal. And so, we have a larger venue, they have a smaller venue, they have a Hispanic speaking population, we do not. So it benefits us. It serves the kingdom purpose for us to come together and do the work, right? And so we've got to do a competitors analysis, and really, for us, it's not seeing each other as a competitor, but more of an ally. How can we work together? And some churches see other churches as competitors. That's the real, that's just reality. And then we have to look at how we can position ourselves to advance the kingdom. All right. So for me, when we're doing a SWOT analysis, and one of the things that we need to be concerned about is a root cause analysis. And a root cause analysis really is just the readiness for change is one of the most influential factors that affect the design of change. And so we have to look at, are we ready for change? Looking at the root cause, what is the problem? So along with the SWOT analysis, you've got to do a root cause analysis, right? And so in terms of collection of information, you've got to form teams, identify problems, gather data, and verify that data. You cannot do it by yourself. You have to develop a team, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, and you have to get their buy-in. Then you've got to analyze, you've got to determine the cause, approximate, identify the events which occurred, identify the contributing problems, and isolate the roots. So, for example, if there is a stagnation and the ministry is not growing, we've got to be able to identify the cause of that. Or if there's a particular situation that is causing a particular department to not grow or particular venture to not grow, then we need to identify that, and then we need to identify solutions, right? Fix the causes and implement corrective and preventative action. So the go-to-market plan, what does that go-to-market plan look like? We've got to prioritize and test, and look at factors that actually contribute to success, and make sure that the team buys in, because whatever that go-to-market plan, it's going to cost us time. It's going to cost us resources. We're going to have to sow our gifts. We're going to have to sow our talents. So we really need a buy-in for the go-to-market plan. They've got to minimize expenses. We're going to try and look at those plans that have worked. Talk to other ministries, see what they have done, see if they, see what they have implemented. How have they been successful in certain things? So around me, there are absolutely a number of very successful ministries, and we've got to be able to go and talk to them and see how did they get to that place of success, without compromising the gospel, because that's what we don't want to do. We don't want to compromise the gospel of Jesus Christ, and him crucified. We want to make sure that we adhere to the principles and the doctrine of the word. And so we've got to look at the market that we serve, the competitors, their business plan, the competitor SWOT analysis, and an integrated market strategy. So all these components are essential. So we know what the opportunities and threats. All of those are external to our church. So we've got to make sure for the successful implementation of change, it is imperative to identify the opportunities and threats of the change process. The goal of the ministry should be increased productivity in the students, or increased productivity in our members, and to improve the use of resources. So it's essential to look at the mission, to be innovative and creative, provide realistic and reliable solutions, have an appropriate skill and anointing to do what we're called to do, aim to meet the needs of the kingdom accountability requirements, and define the needs of the ministry, the needs of the members, and the resources in our community to meet those needs. So we've just got to be realistic about what are the opportunities and threats. And so we've got to be able to take a deep dive into our competitors' business model. Does our business model align, or is it a different business model? Because often when we do a SWOT, then we look at why do we need to improve. So it's always really great to look at what's going on around us, to look at who's doing what, and develop those partnerships. Again, I say here, develop those partnerships, and look at models of profitability, not just profitability financially, but profitability in terms of advancement, kingdom advancement, and increase in membership. So to do that, we've got to get to the place of developing a strategic plan. So, the strategic plan is a process in which an organization's leader defines their vision for the future and identify their organization's goals and objectives. So the process, it really includes a sequence of goals that we identify, and as we mentioned briefly, how do we meet those goals, and do those goals align with the vision of the organization. So, we've got to look at the cultural context. A lot of times we've got to understand the culture of our ministry, right? Sometimes we can say one thing, but the culture of the ministry is something completely different. Sometimes you really have to take the pulse of people that visit, and and really follow up with a call, follow up with a survey. If they came back, or would they come back? If they didn't come back, why? Because you really need to identify the culture of your house. What does that culture look like? Have a clear understanding of your church, a clear understanding of its history, and the history of change. Has it had to go through a change process before? What are the expectations of the church? Right, what's the expectations of the ministry? Where are you trying to go? And how you're going to get there, and how long is it going to take you to get there? Right, and then we've got to be able to put that those plans into action. So, one of the things that I talk about that I love is, as we begin to look at leading change and doing the SWOT analysis, we've got to be able to have a church builders program, that mindset. And, that would be something that we will talk about a little bit more. I think I will put some notes in Canvas on the church builders program and that mindset. But we've got to be able to take an assessment of the church. You've got to be able to do a church analysis. What does that look like? Then a church treatment plan. Listen, everyone does not like change. Change can be very, very challenging. So, and then, sometimes we may discover some things where there's been some wounds, where we need to develop a church treatment plan, a strategic plan that will identify those goals and facilitate a smooth transition. Then we've got to look at, the church builders plan. What's different from a church treatment plan and a church builders plan? The church builders plan will look at the mission, will look at the vision, will look at the values. What is the values of the ministry? The church operation, and what does it recommend? What is the church judicial system? The church corporate system. There's so much aspects of pastoral care. It really looks at a lot of things. The church genealogram, who are we serving? Church language, is the church language one that promotes positivity, that promotes hope, that promotes vision, that promotes creativity, or is it a language that is woe is me, right? We've got to be cognizant, of all those factors, and we've got to be able to look at the church tradition. What is the tradition? What is our belief system? Sometimes, the modern era believes we have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There are some traditions that is rooted in the gospel, right? And so we've got to look at, what is the tradition of our church? The church manual, is there a clear vision that is written? Is there a SOP, or is there a book of discipline? The church name, what does it mean? And then the church succession plan. Who are you training? Who's part of your leadership team? Is your leadership team multi-generational? All right. And so we've got to be able to align, our marketing, our sales, our distribution channels, our customer service. So what do I mean by that? How are we marketing the church? Who is our target customer, right? Who are we selling the vision to? Because whether we realize it or not, church is a business, right? And we are selling our business, our distribution channels. Who are we pushing the ministry to? And our customer service, how are we doing? Are we doing a good job, right? Or are we just doing church and hoping it's good, and we're not measuring whether we're successful or not, right? And success has nothing to do with numbers. You can be very successful and have 50 50 people in your church, and you can do a very, very miserable job and have 1,000 people, right? It has nothing to do with numbers, but be able to be open to looking at your customer service. Are we doing well? Are we pushing God's agenda? So one of the things that I love this key scripture. It says, "But now hath God set the members, every one of them, in the body, as it have pleased him. And if they were all one member, where were the body? But now are they many members, yet but one body. And the eyes cannot say unto the hand, I have no need of thee, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of thee." Listen, we need each other, right? We need each other. We need the members in the body. And listen, and then as a church, we are part of the body. So we do not want to isolate ourselves, right? We want to be ahead of our time, and we want to lead change, right? We want to lead change. We want the church to be relevant. We want the church to be the loudest voice. And so it's awesome. So when we're talking about transactional leadership, transactional leadership is really leadership, with an objective at the end of it. Transactional leader is one who values order and structure. They are likely to command military operations, manage large corporations, or lead international projects that require rules and regulations to complete objectives on time or move people and supplies in an organization. Transactional leaders, they're not a good fit for creativity and innovation, right? And it's okay. We need transactional leaders, but when we lead in change, we really need you to be a transformational leader. The concept of transformational leadership can be very useful for the visionary. Transactional leadership is a process adopted by a leader, along with their team to identify a necessary change in the church. And so we really need leaders that can identify necessary change and improve the church organization and not be afraid of change, right? Not be afraid of change. And so even with you doing this program and doing this course, you are a transformational leader. We are leading change, and we will herald what God's standard is in the earth realm. We will be able to set policies and be a voice of influence. And so as we look at transformational change and transformation leadership, we've got to be able to set direction, develop people, redesign the organization, and manage training and development. And so that's essential. With that, we need teams. We need teams to be able to engage in that process. So as we begin to look at teamwork, you can actually look at the slide. Just read. Just pause for a minute and look at the slide, and just take in what's essential in terms of developing a team. Creating enthusiasm, initiative. To make things happen. There are so many components to team development. And I'm sure we will cover looking at creating teams as we begin to go into our course, Leading Change. With teams, you've got to be able to look at group work. Group work is essential. That means we have to be able to communicate. Transformational leadership leads to mutual engagement in the attempt to achieve a common goal. So we want to achieve a common goal, right? So, and we want to look at the performance of the group. We want to be innovative. We want to be creative, and we want to engage those around us. And we want to be on the cutting edge, right? We want to be on the cutting edge. We want to be relevant. All right, so we already know there are benefits to transformational leadership. And, as you look at the slide, you can see what those benefits are. Transformation leaders lead to collective engagement. So we engage everyone to a common goal. We look at performance and the performance of the group and how essential that is. Again, innovation, creativity, that word is popping up quite a lot because we have to be innovative. We've got to think outside the box, and we've got to be creative. We don't change the principles of the word, right? But sometimes the application will need to be changed. to engage in another generation. So again, we're competitive. We have a competitive edge, and we let it be clear in terms of what that competitive edge looks like, and we will always promote Christ. Always promote Christ and Him crucified and resurrected. And so I'm so glad that we have come to the end. There's a few references for you, and you will see some references in your notes on Canvas. And so, if you have any questions on leading change and applying the SWOT analysis to your church, please feel free to reach out to me. And you can reach me either by phone or by email. Feel free to call me. So God bless. I pray that you have learned something and this has motivated you in our first module on leading change. God bless you.